This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So, Governor Rauner is going to sign a school funding bill, I believe today, that was passed in the House on Tuesday, passed in the Senate. Passed in the House on Monday, passed in the Senate yesterday.
Come on, Dan, get it right.
Getting my days confused. They all run together. And goes to his desk. He's already released a statement that he's going to sign it, thanking all of the legislative leaders. And, let me tell you something. Anytime you see bouquets being bandied back and forth between all the Democrats and all the Republicans in Springfield, you should be skeptical that you're about to take it in the shorts. So here's the deal with this school funding bill.
And we are going to take it in the shorts.
Well, Senate President John Cullerton, who's been a state senator since...
Hey, he's my state senator.
Yeah,
since when I was in diapers, right?
Since Illinois was incorporated in 1818. He said, the state's hated school funding formula is finally on its last legs. It's going to be replaced by one that recognizes fairness and equity in the individual challenge. $350 million in new school funding that we include in our budget is prioritized for the public schools and the students who need it most. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. You think throwing more money into the same formula, this is not the hated school funding formula. School funding formula is still in force with an evidence-based model. This is, a essentially esoteric term to say fund the adults in the system, hire more adults for the system, focus on inputs, don't worry about outputs. That's what's happened in states that have adopted this model. That's what's been happening in Illinois for half a century. In the last 20 years, as I have reported here before, total spend on K through 12 education in Illinois has increased by 74%, inflation adjusted, real dollars, while enrollment during that same period has increased 6%. A 12-fold increase in spending versus enrollment. Performance, flat. 2/3 of 4th and 8th graders in Illinois neither read nor do they do math at grade level. But the good news is Chicago public school teachers have the highest lifetime earnings of any teachers in the country, higher than New York, where New York's cost of living is at least 1/3 higher. And the teacher retiring in as of, say, 2011, average pension, $72,000 a year, which is approximately 50% higher than the median household income in the state. And I'm not, teachers, everybody's trying to maximize their earnings. That's not the point. The point is inputs versus outputs. That's the conversation. Well, and all this is inputs. Now, that said, I've supported this deal, unholy as it is, because we have unholy leadership in the General Assembly.
Yeah, but there's something in it for the children.
Tax credit scholarships. Right. That's the whole game. And that's the only thing that's transformative. So when you hear Republican and Democrat politicians, because they're all weighing in, say this is some transformative event, the only thing that is transformative about this is the tax credit scholarships. That is the only win that was available, and it was smart of Governor Rauner and Republicans to take it. Now, that being said, I want to set the record straight because, for those who read like the industry rags of politics in the state, the Illinois Policy Institute and the new people that the governor hired, they lost in this. That's what Rich Miller and Capital Facts said.
No, you didn't lose in this.
We're the strongest proponents of tax credit scholarships. We're the strongest proponents in the state of school choice, in addition to One Chance Illinois. And the person who deserves much of the credit for this, even though I'm diametrically opposed to him on most economic and political matters, is Cardinal Cupich. Let me tell you something. The House Republicans that are taking a bow, Jim Durkin, that pansy who's the House Republican leader, and Bill Brady, they're taking a curtsy. They don't deserve one. They were willing, as was Governor Rauner's Education Secretary, Beth Purvis, to capitulate at much less than what is actually included in the tax credit scholarship, which is a $100 million fund, 75% tax credit. That's a real thing. They were willing to essentially surrender, because that's usually how they open, at much lower amounts, $25 million, 25% tax credit. The program would have never got off the ground, and they would have still signed the garbage on the other side of it to continue pouring more money into K through 12 systems that don't produce better results as a result of the additional inputs. That's the reality. That was how it actually went down. So the group that you have to thank, the people that you have to thank for this being transformative in that one narrow sense, the tax credit scholarships, which is a big deal. That's a game changer. The rest of the stuff is just more of the same.
Well,
the group that you have to thank, Cardinal Supich,
right.
One Chance Illinois, and all of their partners across the political spectrum, and a few Republican legislators, not legislative leaders. That's who got this done.
But how did they sneak this in? And I think people need to pay attention that the Illinois school funding bill includes city property tax increase of up to $130 million a year. Was I not? Has this been here all along?
Well, so that's what.
So that's part of the rub too. And then they say we're going to separate pension costs from CPS operating costs as a way to protect the classrooms.
Pension and healthcare, yeah. So the state's going to pick that up. Although this is fairy tale math. You think the state no more has the money to pick up those ballooning costs than it does to close the $130 million in unfunded liabilities that it currently has with state pension funds. Okay? So the reckoning is still coming. It is coming to the pension funds. It's coming to K through 12 education. It's coming to Illinois families. Your property taxes, there's nothing in terms of property tax relief here. If anything, as you point out, it's property tax increases in Chicago, but that's what Chicagoans like. So give it to them good and hard.
Do people not read their bills? I mean, everybody's mortgages, you're not going to have an adjustable mortgage rate. The property taxes went up.
Champagne socialists and virtue signaling leftists and beneficiaries of transfer payments, that's what's largely left in Chicago. And it's trending worse. So that you've signaled what you like by the leadership you've chosen in Chicago, in Cook County, in Illinois. So to get anything that is structural reform in nature, which tax credit scholarships are, it's a legacy stuff we're talking about, is a minor miracle. But it has very little to do with most of the people taking credit for it. And it has a lot to do with people you aren't hearing from, like Cardinal Supich, like One Chance Illinois, like the people that are part of that coalition who aren't interested in glory mongering like political hacks in both parties in this state are, particularly the leaders. That's an oxymoron in Illinois, political leader. It's the people behind the scenes that were just interested in getting funds to families that don't have choice for their children right now, to get them into better schools if they so choose. That's their end game. And they got it, at least the start of it. $500 million over the next 5 years for scholarships for kids.
Good.
James in Westmont, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good to talk to you guys again. My question was, like, who qualifies for these tax scholarships? I have two kids, one in high school, one in grade school, both Catholic schools.
Yeah.
So I know, and it does, and trust me, we're feeling the pinch, but I'd rather, sacrifice and send them to, them getting a real education versus like what the even in my hometown of Westmont, they're relatively decent schools, but it's just hard to trust it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because my daughter does very well, and I don't think she would have gotten the attention she would have deserved or needed through the public school unless she was like extremely high up there. And my son, he's doing well too, but if it wasn't for like how the Catholic school, helps creates their education around the student, I don't think he would do well in the public school either. So it's just amazing how the Catholic schools always seem to get it done, and great praise to Cardinal Supich for helping with this anyway.
Yeah, James, thanks for the call, and and good for you for sacrificing your kids. My parents did the same for me, which is why I was able to get the education that I earned. Here's the qualification to answer your question: $80,000 household income and under. Yeah, those qualify for scholarships. It's essentially 300% of a poverty level for a household of four. And the scholarships are up to the state average spend per pupil, $12,300. If your child is in accelerated or gifted programs, or if your child has special needs, that scholarship can double to $24,600 per year. So we're talking about real dollars here that provide access to a lot of really good schools, or get you, a long way home to a lot of good schools, whether it's, my alma mater, Bennett out in the burbs, or St. Ignatius, or Northridge Prep, or all kinds of good schools that are denominational and non-denominational. So this is that's the essentially the bottom line qualification, and then there'll be a lot of marketing done by scholarship granting organizations, nonprofits, so that people know how to kind of access these scholarship opportunities once the legislation is signed into law. Thanks for the call, James. Appreciate that. Bob in Dundee.
Hey guys, but I listen to these guys on TV. All they talk about is this is for the kids. So how are we going to make the kids better? But I'm just yanking your chain a little bit, Dan. What I want to know is there a way we can get a referendum on the ballot that says if you are a public servant paid by the taxpayer, that you have to send your kids to public school? You do not have the option.
Yeah, right.
So that'll get the problem fixed real fast. The same with Obamacare. President Trump would sign an executive order putting all of Congress on the Affordable Care Act. That would get fixed real fast.
Thanks for the call, Bob. I mean, right, we can't do that, but you underscore an important point where, depending on whose research you believe, 40 to 50% of Chicago public school teachers send their kids to private school, which says two things: something they know about their neighborhood school, and the fact that they have the resources to do it. Glenn in Holland, Michigan.
Yes. Oh, thank you for taking my call. Everybody has to realize that there is a huge movement going on, and it's called homeschooling. I'm not Amish, and I'm not religious.
Okay.
But in the information age that we have the internet, and we have all information available to the kids, both sides. My kids are both homeschooled now. They were in public school. You only can move along as fast as the stupidest kid in the school. My daughter is now a junior. She's already taking college-level classes. My one daughter's a freshman in high school. Year-wise, she's already taking college-level courses. Parents have to take responsibility. We have the resources, Khan Academy. We've got all sorts of things. YouTube. It's amazing what these kids have now.
Yeah, thanks for. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Parents have to take responsibility for the kids, and if your kids get into college-level courses faster, that replaces the scholarship. My daughter will have 2 years of college, and she'll be done. And my youngest, she'll have 1 year, and she'll have a 4-year degree.
Thanks for the call, Glenn. Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, this is going to come to the college level too, because families are not going to go into Hawk for hundreds of thousands of dollars to get an education they can get through the Khan Academy online. You know what I mean? Exactly. David and Skokie, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy. I don't fully understand and grasp this scholarship program that they're rolling out within this school funding bill. One thing I don't understand is that if they're going to pay for it from hiring taxes, this is another example of them raising taxes, taxing the rich or the 1% people that actually we're not eligible for these scholarships, pay for some, lower income kids.
No, that's not how it works. The tax credit scholarship fund is voluntary contributions from individuals and corporations up to $100 million, and you get a tax credit for making a voluntary contribution. So this isn't an imposition. This is an opportunity for those who want to contribute, get a tax credit, and those funds are used to fund scholarships for lower to middle income, the kids of lower to middle income families. So it's not a tax increase to fund the fund.
So where's the tax increase coming?
What the tax increase is
That
coming
is
to
for
fund
the
the public schools.
Public schools.
Oh, great. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks.
Just for the city of Chicago.
Thanks, David.
Yeah.
Oh no,
the entire state.
Oh, but you can be rest assured that property taxes are going to continue to go up at a 45-degree clip in your community. It's not just going to be Chicago, and rob you of your home equity and essentially seize your property from you over time, because that's what's happening in Illinois. You can rest assured that's
so when
not
they say
that's
city
that's
property
unabated.
tax increase, it's going to be the whole. Yeah.
Well, sure. I mean, $30 billion. I mean, that's the whole thing too. Culture, $350 million in new school funding. Last year, in all dollars in, we spent nearly $30 billion on K through 12 education. I mean, I told you what the increases are over 20 years, and what are we getting in return? Nobody cares. Okay. Jeff in Berwyn, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Greetings. The Sun-Times had an article 4 days ago about the top-paid Chicago city workers. 1 in 3 make over $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
And 36 of them make more than Tinkerbell's salary of $216,000. But here's the kicker: the top city worker, the aviation commissioner, Ginger Evans, makes $400,000 a year. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the 4-star general that runs the United States Air Force makes even half of that.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for the call,
She didn't
Jeff.
even show up around Midway Airport for a meeting on noise abatement. I mean, she gets paid all that. She didn't even show up. Sent on one of her flackies.
Right, and those and you know what those pensions are? You're talking about pensions that are $5-10 million present value, and it's not just the city of Chicago. Take a look at your local school superintendent salaries. Why don't you? In the suburbs, downstate. We've reported on this. They are multiples of the median household income. Pick a community, any community. Steve on the south side.
Hey, good morning. The state just expanded their reach and control over millions of poor families because they're going to control all these grants and where and how they can spend this money.
No.
So to me, it's just a huge power grab.
It's not. Their scholarship granting organizations are nonprofits. It's not government control. It's not.
Well, so the state won't have any say on how these people, what constitutes acceptable education?
No, only it's school participation. It's school's choice to participate, and the strictures that are laid out in the legislation in terms of the thresholds, like $80,000 household income or below, and then nonprofit, not government, nonprofit scholarship granting organizations make the decisions.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Hi, I'm Lex Howard, CEO